I'd like to thank Caroline and Robin for this virtual book festival of books from authors whose new works are coming out in the age of coronavirus. I'm here to talk about Uncomfortably Numb, my new memoir, which is about my experience getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It was all set to come out during Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month, which has now become Coronavirus Awareness Month. So I'll give you a little bit of information about it. I'm a Boston area writer and a teacher, and I'm a former newspaper reporter. And in 2012, while I was working on a book, interviewing the subject of the book, I started to feel some numbness on my left side and thought, oh, it's a little weird. And it was a little numbness on my legs. And then it spread. And then I went to a doctor who gave me an MRI prescription. I went and had an MRI, and they found what they called a lesion in my brain, but said, you don't have the symptoms for MS. Call us if something new happens. It took 2 years from then to get diagnosed with relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. The book traces the difficult journey of the diagnostic process, which is not unusual for people with multiple sclerosis. And the book is divided up into two parts. The first part, the before, the kind of my backstory, what was going on in my family during that 2-year period, and then the after. And the after represents the struggle with coming to terms with these new restrictions that MS places on my life. For example, fatigue. I get tired much more quickly. I can't do as much as I used to. And the second half of the book is filled with examples of when I tried to behave as though I didn't really have MS, and then MS kind of slapped me back. And I had to learn not to waste my energy fighting the disease and just working with it. Another example would be the way MS affects me during hot and humid weather. I can't go outside or be in places that are hot and humid because it will make me physically ill. I'll get bright spots in my vision. I'll get weak, sometimes sick to my stomach, and I am not able to function until I cool off. The second half of the book, again, is replete with examples of how I learned that the hard way. The book ends, spoiler alert, on an up note where I finally reached this kind of an armistice or detente with my disease, saying, okay, it's here to stay, and I'm going to work with you instead of fighting you. Now, the inspiration for this memoir came from many sources, but I'll point to two different authors, two books that were really influential in how I researched and wrote the book. The first one is from Suzanne Strempek Shea. It is Songs from a Lead-Lined Room. Now, I knew Suzanne. We were both newspaper reporters at the same Springfield, Massachusetts newspaper. And this book is about how she coped with being diagnosed with breast cancer and her radiation treatments. And it's beautifully written, and it weaves in all sorts of background and stories about her life as well as her medical experience. And then the classic that most people who have had trouble with illnesses getting diagnosed, the Susannah Cahalan's Brain on Fire book. She also is a newspaper reporter, and she chronicles her experiences with what turned out to be a brain infection, but it mimicked symptoms of psychosis. So she finally, ultimately, and luckily got the proper diagnosis, and her brain infection was resolved, and she was able to carry on her regular life. So that what I learned from reading that book was how she was able to piece together the parts of her story that she didn't remember firsthand. I had some situations like that with writing Uncomfortably Numb, because there were times when I was having MS attacks where I was almost completely unconscious and I don't remember what happened. So I had to rely on interviews with my family members, with friends, to look at text messages, emails, and medical reports to try to piece together the story. So I learned a lot by reading Susannah's way of reporting on what she doesn't remember firsthand. And Caroline and Robin have also asked us to give a plug for our local independent bookstores. And I'm going to give a plug to the Tatnuck Booksellers in Westborough, Massachusetts. That's Tatnuck, Tatnuck. They held a book launch for me on March 7th, which is probably going to be the last book event I'll do for a while because of the coronavirus concerns. Tatnuck has hosted book events for all of my books, all 4 of my books, and has been really supportive of local authors. And if you want to order a copy of Uncomfortably Numb, you can get it from Amazon, but you can also get it from Tatnuck, and with Tatnuck, you'll get it signed. And I promise if you order a signed book, I'll Purell my hands before touching it, write my name, and give it back to them. So again, I really appreciate this opportunity to be part of a virtual book festival of authors. And while we're all holed up in the coronavirus shutdown, what better thing to do than to read? Thanks.